as was mentioned, I'm with the task force, Isaac. How many of you have ever heard of Isaac? Okay, most everybody. Information Sharing Analysis Center. I'm an investigator with them. My background's investigations. Started off Raleigh PD a long time ago, but most of my time was with Sheriff's Department, major crime is my main background. Right now, again, I'm investigating with Isaac. I'm a liaison for all the universities in North Carolina. The Isaac Task Force centers on anti-terrorism activity and trying to make sure everybody is working together to coordinate any problems, any thing that needs to be looked at. So basically that means I work, of course, with SBI, Homeland Security, FBI, and a few other task force members. Highway Patrol has 3 right now. I'm gonna move this around, I'm sorry. Thank you. And the older you get, you have to do everything different. Used to it was not this complicated, but now it's complicated because I wear glasses and I have to put them on a rope because if I don't, I forget them. But if I put them on a rope and they're down here hanging, they're hitting the mic, so I'm up here trying to adjust all this. Bear with me. I love investigations. I left Raleigh PD though as a young man and went back to school, just so you know. Ended up I was in seminary and I worked outreach and missions and everything for 12 years with young adults and got to travel and do some mission stuff. I always loved being a cop, but I didn't feel like I meant to be a cop my whole life. And so I wasn't. And I was out of it for really about 15 years and came back and hope to retire here. I have bivocational pastor a couple of churches and love people. I mean, that's the whole point. And sometimes it's not easy to love people. I'm not always lovable, and I don't think everybody else is either, actually, but you try to, right? We try to fit together and work together, and that's the real purpose of this, my sharing with you today. Again, not perfect, but imperfect, and somebody that needs to learn, and we all, I think, need to learn. So I'm going to give you a particular case that I worked. I was a lieutenant in major crime during this case, and on this particular year, we'd already had 6 homicides in 6 months, and they were some very graphic, bad ones, but this ended up being the worst. This was our 7th as of July of that year, and so I'm getting a lot of feedback. Maybe I need to sit still. I'm not doing this in any way. Some of this stuff is sensitive material. I'm going to I tried to desensitize it as much as I could, but you are evidence technicians. Most of you have seen a lot of stuff. The point is not to be graphic. The point is to make a point that you never know what kind of case you're going to have, and you never know what how your actions may affect someone else. And today, if you'll listen to me and follow, you're going to find out how an evidence technician had a huge impact in this case, which y'all do, you always do, but in this case, very much so, and it affected me. So let me give you a little bit of a rundown here. First of all, y'all, evidence collection, evidence technicians here, I guess some of you go out in the field some too, correct? So a little bit of, yeah, okay, just depends. Depending on the size department, right, and what's going on. Okay, but you see it all for the most part. And again, just want to be sensitive to that. Basically, in July of this year, of this particular year, it was 2010, I believe it was, we had a lot of bad things happen. And I'm just going to try to pull up some pictures here that we'll start with. Jonathan Richardson was a 21-year-old, as you can see, a white male, and He did not have a criminal history. And real quick scenario, and we'll go through a lot of pictures for about 20, 30 minutes because you need to set the scene, and I'm going to take about 20 or 30 minutes and try to give you some things that maybe you can take home with you, a particular incident that was a big deal with the evidence technician and handling something for me. And you'll understand why it was a big deal as you follow with me. But in this year of July 2010, Richardson was dating a young girl. It was in the news. A lot of you probably did hear about it. It was pretty big regional news. But dating a young girl that had a small child named Tegan Skiba, 4-year-old Tegan Skiba. Jonathan Richardson was had never been in trouble at all. He was an avid outdoorsman, hunter, and everything else. Later on, we found out he did have some issues in the past. He had not ever been charged with them, but he definitely had issues with his relationship to adult females or young adult females. Maybe one's 15 though, that was younger, so juvenile in that case. But he was dating this girl. She was in the National Guard. Reyes was her name, and 4-year-old Tegan Skiba was her daughter from another marriage. She was with this guy and was living with him. She decides to leave and go to Texas for training for National Guard. And when she left, she decided to let Jonathan keep her little girl. And so Jonathan, being deviant and being who he was, decided to take advantage of it. And it turned out to be a case that I can tell you that UNC Hospitals, the head pediatric surgeon there said it was the worst case of child abuse he'd ever seen. He was actually, several doctors were at the trial. But let's go through a couple of the scenes, pictures here real quick just to help you out. 7633. Okay, there's the house of the grandparent in Johnston County. You know, and this is where the grandparents lived. He lived in a small little one-room shack type deal in the back. There's the backyard. You see it's well kept and neat. Here in the very back, you see the little small house, right? That's where he lived. That's where Tegan Skiba lived the last 10 days of her life. Jumped around on me.
Was his parents' house?
I'm sorry?
He was in the backyard of somebody's parents?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, anytime you need me to clarify. She's asking where was he at. That was his grandparents' house. And they let him live in that house. Ask anything. If I'm not, I'm trying to keep up with screening these photos a little bit and look at some stuff here. But yes, that's what happened. He had lived there for a while. And him and Reyes, the girl, had lived there with the child. So when she left, and this is part of the whole deal, we found out later on, of course, that she knew that he had done some things wrong to the child. He had made the child drink beer, 4-year-old pulpit course. We got a picture of that. He made her see sexually explicit films. At times, he made her smoke cigarettes to be funny. This 4-year-old girl. And the mother saw that and supposedly confronted him about it. But you know what most mothers would do, and so do I, right? But that's part of the whole issue with the case, is that became a big deal later on because people began to turn vehemently against the mother who was gone. And I had a problem with that because everybody wanted, even legal officials wanted me to go after the mother, suggested we need to go after the mother and bring her in at the same time we brought in Richardson. And I absolutely refused. I did not want to do that. I didn't see the parallel. What she did was wrong. She was charged with it. It's felony child abuse, everything. It's no comparison to what this man did. Period. So, but yes, he had lived there. They lived in the house, the three of them, and then she decides to leave. Even though she had apprehensions about it, Her mother and her had problems. They weren't getting along, so she didn't want to leave her with the mother. So she decides to let him keep her. He claimed he loved her and all that, loved the child and wouldn't do anything. But quite different than that. Okay, we got that one. What we found was when he met the mother and took the little girl, the first thing he did, and you'll see it later, I think, in a receipt. I might have the receipt in here. He went to a Walmart and bought a hasp and a lock. That's the first thing he did. He didn't buy her groceries. He didn't buy anything else, a toy to play with. He bought a combination lock. You see it there. And so that was, that wasn't hard to figure out and prove in court, but that's the first thing he did. And then he went back and put that on the door there to keep her in. And subsequently, he would lock her in that house for the next 10 days and leave whenever he wanted to, for however amount of time he wanted to, and he would come back and have her locked in there. He forbid his grandparents to go in the backyard to check on her. They were afraid of him, very afraid of him. He had threatened to kill them. Going inside the room, just show you real quick the clutter. This matters too, and you'll understand why later. That's a corner. You see all the stuff on the floor there. Can I open this up? Let's see. Maybe, and not lose it like that, but we'll see. The rifle, hunting rifle, bench. You see all that. Let's just scan around in the room. As we go around, you see on the floor all the, I don't know how you even get around, right? You see it. This is the clutter. There are absolutely hundreds of photographs. I'm just skimming through these to give you an idea of the amount of stuff that we had to look through and pull and go through. It took us 2 days. That was the bed that he used, a mattress. As you can see, it's an air mattress. And see the stuff to the right. There's clutter everywhere to the left. As we scan on around the room, this is looking back out the door. Clutter, you see the little girl's gym bag there, the bag her mom had gotten her. This was some tape that was found. There was tons of evidence that he had taped her up. This is some of the tape he used, duct tape, and that was her hair. There's some tape he used he was trying to bandage her up at one point in time after he realized he had already about killed her. Some of her hair there. Of course, he had pot in there and bong over there on the right. You see that? There's her bag again with her little teddy bear. Sideways, I'm sorry, but you can see the clutter. See the trash bags there? 3 bagfuls of trash. We went through every piece of trash, every single piece. You see all that. There's a receipt that we found in one of the trash bags. It shows he bought, this is a different one, he bought her a little bit of stuff. He bought her Neosporin bandages, and more bandages. That was on, I think, one of the last days he had her there. And yeah, and he was actually just trying to patch her back up before he decided to take her to the hospital and say that she had fallen off the bed and had hit her head on the treadmill. That's what he told him. And this is the famous case, if you didn't see it, was on the news, where the ER nurse ran him down. A Johnson County 5'2" nurse ran him down as he tried to leave while she was in the emergency room being tended to before she got airlifted to UNC Hospital. And the nurses are looking at her saying, "My God, what in the world? This is horrific." And he's sitting there saying, "She just fell." And then they see things, incredible things. And he gets up and says, "I've got to move my truck." And he starts heading out. And this 5'2" nurse chased him down, headlocked him in. She tells the story in the trial, and held him. And of course, even got to the point. I mean, another officer came in bringing someone else in, and he said, "What in the world are you doing?" He saw her. She's there with a headlock in the guy. I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Hey, what are you doing?" She said, "You give me your gun and I'll fix this problem." And that was what was remembered, and probably as much as anything in the trial. But you know how that goes. I mean, that's what happened. This is the amount of beer that was found in there. Do you see all the beer? Oh, and by the way, those bags, they're full of empty beer bottles. You see it? Right? Snacks, baby stuff, and enough beer to, that's more beer than you find at an NC State football game.